will share my screen. Let me know if you can see, please.
Yes, we can
Full
see it. Sure.
screen?
Yep.
Full screen. Okay,
Yep.
thanks a lot. Okay, good evening, all of you. This is Oscar Siles from Bolivia, South America. Here in my country, this 10 a.m. in the morning. I am very honored to participate in this very important event. On this occasion, I will present a very exciting topic in the area of project control, which already I presented in the last version of the Project Control Expo last November. The topic I will talk about today is the SPI really an effective indicator for project control? And I hope you like it very much and it will be useful for your project control activities. Thank you very much and welcome to this webinar. It is possible that this presentation has a duration of 40 to 50 minutes after a few minutes for questions, okay? Once again, I thank you for your attention. I also thank those people who have questions to make or comment can do so writing in the chat so that I can read and respond in the most precise way. Okay, let's go. We are going to start this presentation by reviewing some basic concept of earned value, earned schedule, and its indicators to focus on the SPI and SV indicator and its impact on the project performance analysis. So help me, please, by reviewing these concepts. EVM, Earned Value Management method is very effective in measuring project performance, mainly in terms of performance of work performed compared to monetary units. What does this mean? The project performance in terms of physical and budgetary progress is measured in relation to the money variable. Okay? Now, harmonization of the EVM. EVM is consistent with ANSI EIA 74AC plus PMI's PS EVM standard 3rd edition and AACEI RP 82R13. This means that in some way, the application of EVM has been standardized in project control. PMI and AACE have been applying these practices for many years and have reflected it in their respective standards. Okay, we can see in the graph the triangle with 3 points with the ANSI, PMI, and AACE. So we can say that the earned value techniques is currently very well supported. Right. Let's go ahead. Remembering the EVM formulas. In the following graphic, we can see three curves. One is the cost baseline, BAC, the orange curve, you can see. The pink curve represents the current accumulated cost, AC, as of the status date. The third blue curve represents earned value to date. You can see the green line, this is the status date. Also, we can see the different EVM indicators such as CPI, SPI, TCPI. Okay, we will talk about these indicators in the next slides, please. An important point in these graphics and these formulas is that there is no formula to determine the predictive period of completing of the project. We can see that this point with the cursor, the EAC time indicator, but this is part of the earned schedule and not of the earned value. Okay, this is important to have very clear in our minds. Let's go. What interests us about the EVM for analysis? This will be the focus of the topic. For our analysis, we are interested in addressing two indicators that are related to the performance of the schedule. These indicators are SPI and Schedule Performance Index and SB, Schedule Variation. Of all the variety of indicators that EVM present, we will concentrate on these two to understand their behavior in the measurement of project performance and their impact on the forecast for the conclusion of the schedule. Okay, the EVM has many indicators, but we will concentrate in two indicators for our analysis. Let's talk now about the extension of the EVM, which is the ESM, Earned Schedule Management. It was introduced in 2003 to PMI standards by Mr. Walter Lipke. This technique is complementary to the EVM and is very useful to determine the performance indicator of the project related to the schedule to know what the performance was to date, as well as the project completion forecast. Okay, the ESM extension also contains the SPI and SB indicators, but based on the time variable and not the money variable such as EVM. This is a very important point that we have to differentiate. Okay. What is the relationship between EVM and ESM? As we can see from this graphic, the earned schedule is the period that equates to an amount of earned value that should have been achieved as planned. The red line represents ES, earned schedule, this red line. Then, the graphic shows the EVM and ESM indicators, both for the current performance measurement situation and for the project forecast. Okay? On the left side of this slide, we can see the formulas related to the SPI and SB, both for earned value and earned schedule. You can see SPI for EVM, this is the relation between EV with PV, and in ESM is SPI time is ES relation with AT, actual time. Okay, as we can see, ES is calculated as the sum of C plus I, where C is the largest value of M that satisfies the condition EV greater than or equal to PVN. I is the fraction of the time period up to the planned value equivalent to the EVO obtained on the status date. So, ES, earned schedule, is equal C plus I. Okay? Go ahead. So you can see this graphic. What's happening to the SPI? What's happening? You can see this graphic. SPI finish with one value all time, no matter if the project delay or early finish. No matter if the project late finish or early finish. So, a schedule improvement or false indications due to SPI. This is a big question that all practitioners of the EVM techniques have in your mind, okay? a schedule improvement, or false indication due to SPI money. As we can see from the graphic, the SPI money ends at 1 when the project deliverables are completed, regardless of whether there was a delay or advance in the completing of the project. This is the first point. In this example, the project had a 3-month delay to complete, but the SPI money only ends in 1. The answer to this situation is clear for me. The SPI money represents the performance ratio between the value of the work done and the planned value for a certain period. Therefore, at the end of the project and completion of the deliverables, the performance ratio will be 1, work completed. So we can conclude that the SPI indicator, money, is not a good reference to really understand what happens with the advance in a schedule and how late or early the project concludes. Okay, I think that this is very clear for all us. Let's go a real case. In the following graphic, you can see the typical SPI money and SB money of a project. So this graph contains 2 scales, one on the left side with a scale to measure SPI, dimensionless, and one on the right in units of money to measure SV. So in this graphic is a typical curve of a project with late finish. Okay, we can note in this graphic that the SPI all time finish with 1. Okay, well, if we analyze the behavior of the SPI, we see that it is distorted from the last third of the project, which gives us a false indication of the status of the project in advance of the schedule. This is a big clear point that we have to analyze. Simulation of scenarios in project control model. To carry out the analysis of the effectiveness of the SPI indicator, I will rely on the project control model that I developed 6 years ago and that I have implemented in several companies in Bolivia. This model applies earned value and earned schedule to measure project performance. Then we will do simulation of various advancement scenarios in a project schedule so we can understand the behavior of the SPI money and the SPI time in the project. Okay? I will introduce you to the model for the project control. Project control model in the construction industry under PMI and AACEI standards developed by PMC Bolivia. This is my company. This model allows to load all the information of the physical budgetary advance and to measure the current performance of the project, as well as to make a forecast of when and with how much the project will conclude. This is a big question that many high management make. Okay? So we do the simulation in the model for 3 typical scenarios. 1, early project completing is early finish. 2, completing according to the original schedule on a schedule. 3, late project completing is late finish. Around of the 3 scenarios, we will make the analysis. If you agree with me, The third scenario is the most common in project. That is project completing with delay. At least in Bolivia and Latam, it represents almost 80% of the project. The objective is to analyze the behavior of the SPI in each scenario. Okay, so the project planning. We are going to carry out the SPI analysis on a typical case of an infrastructure construction project. The data are duration 20 months, budget BAC 1,023 dollars. So we are going to perform the SPI behavior analysis in 3 scenarios and each scenario in 4 stages of progress, which are 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%. Okay, so that 3 scenarios and each scenario in 4 stages. Okay, let's go ahead. So the first scenario is early finish. These graphics show that the project complete 3 periods ahead of schedule. The red vertical line shows the period in which the project ended. We can cite that this is a rare case in project, if you agree with me. Likewise, the blue curve represents the baseline BAC. The orange curve is the total accumulated cost AC, which is at the end the EAC money. The gray curve represents the accumulated earned value at the completion date, which is nothing other than the total work complete in this case. As can be seen, AC is greater than BAC, which means that the project concluded with and cost overrun, but in less time than planned. Okay, now let's see what's happened to the SPI in the 4 stages of this scenario: 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%. First stage of first scenario. Early finish performance measurement at 25. Let's first look at the top left graphic. The simulation carried out at 25% progress in the schedule shows that there is a similar behavior between the SPI money, red curve, and the SPI time, gray curve, with moderate variation in each measurement period. The lower left graphic contains 2 scales, one for SV monies and one for SV time. We can see that SV money red curve shows that there is a negative variation, that is delay in schedule translated into money. For its part, SV time gray curve shows that there is a negative variation, but as a function of the time variable, which means a delay in the schedule. The black graphics show the status date at 25% with the red line, as well as AC and EV at that date. Also, you can see the forecast indicator such as EAC money and EAC time calculated based on the performance of the status date. In this case, the project would conclude with cost overruns and schedule delay. We run all these calculations in the PMC model. Okay, this is the first stage in the first scenario. Okay, now performance measurement at 50%. You can progress of the of these curves, let's first look at the top left graph. The simulation carried out at 50% progress in the schedule shows that there is a similar behavior between SPI money red curve and the SPI time gray curve, with more differentiated variation in the last measurement periods. You can see the period 10, you can see the more differentiated variation, okay? The lower left graphic contains two scales, one for SV money and one for SV time. We can see that SV money curve shows that there is a positive variation, that is advancing schedule translated into money. For its part, SV time gray curve shows that there is a positive variation, but as a function of the time variable, which means an advance in the scale, okay? The black graph shows the 50% status date with the red line, as well as AC and EV indicators and the date. Also, you can see the forecast indicators such as EAC money and EAC time calculated based on the performance of the status date. And in this case, the project would conclude on a schedule and even with a lower budget than planned. We clearly see that the EAC money and EAC time forecast indicators vary on each status date, depending on the performance obtained in each measurement, okay? Okay, so the next stage, performance measurement at 75% of advance. You can see the top left graph, this graph, the simulation carried out at 75 advancing schedule shows that there is a similar behavior between the SPI money red curve and the SPI time gray curve, but in the period 11, the difference is substantial, and strangely, in period 15, both SPIs have the same value. You can say, very strange, this behavior, okay? The lower left graph contains two scales, one for SB money and one for SB time. We can see that SB money red curve show that there is a downward variation in relation to the previous measurement, but it is still ahead of the schedule translated into money, okay? For its part, SB time gray curve showed that there is a slight positive variation in relation to the previous measurement, but as a function of the time variable, which means an advance in the schedule. The black graphic, right side, shows the status date 75 with the red line, as well as AC and EV at that date. Also, you can see the forecast indicators such as AEC, money, and EAC time calculated based on the performance of the status date. And in this case, the project would conclude with one period in advance, but with not very significant cost overruns. Okay? Let's go over the last step. Early finish performance measurement at 100%. Let's first look at the top left graphic. The simulation carried out at 100%, which is the conclusion of the project, shows that the indicators SPI money red curve and SPI time gray curve have been separated substantially, so that at the conclusion of the SPI money is 1.04 and the SPI time is 1.18. This last value is correct, 1.18. Okay, since the relationship of the planned period 20 and the completion period 17 indicates that the project concludes 18% earlier than planned. Okay, the lower left graphic contains two scales, one for SB money and one for SB time. We can see that SB money, red curve, and at the conclusion shows a value of $70,000 in money. For its part, SB time, gray curve, shows that at the conclusion, there has been a positive variation of 3 months from 20 to 70. This is the correct number, okay? As we can see, both ESM indicators, SPI T and SVT, show more consistent results on the actual performance of the project. The black graph shows the 100 status date with the red line, as well as AC and EV at a date, which correspond to the final budget and the final completion period of the project. In this case, the project concludes with 3 periods in advance, but with no very significant cost overrun. Okay? In this case, we finished the first scenario, early finish, with her 4th stage. Okay? Now we are going to review what's happened with on the schedule. What's happening on the schedule? This graph shows that the project was completed in the same number of planned time periods. The red vertical line shows the period in which the project ended. We can say that this is a rare case in project. Likewise, the blue curve represents the baseline cost, BIC. The orange curve is the total accumulated cost, AC, which is at the end the EAC money. The gray curve represents the accumulated earned value at the completion date, which is nothing other than the total work completed. As can be seen, AC is greater than BAC. It means that the project concluded with no very significant cost overruns, but within the planned schedule. Now, let's see what's happening to SPI in the 4th stage in this scenario. Okay. One is on schedule, performance measurement at 25%. Okay. Let's first look at the top left graphic. Okay. The simulation carried out at 25 progress in the schedule shows that there is a similar behavior between the SPI money red curve and the SPI time gray curve, with moderate variations in each measurement period. The lower left graphic contains 2 scales, one for SV money and one for SV time. We can see that SV money, red curves, shows that there is a negative variation, that is, the line schedule translated into money. For its part, gray curve shows there is a negative variation, but as a function of the time variable, which means a delay in the schedule. The black graphic shows the status date at 25% with the red line, as well as AC and EV at that date. Also, you can see the forecast indicator like EAC money and EAC time calculated based on the performance of the status date. In this case, EAC time indicates that the project could be completed 1 month late and with a small cost overrun. Okay, let's see now the next stage at 50%. On the schedule, performance measurement at 50%. You can see the top left graphic first, okay? The simulation carried out at 50% advancing the schedule shows that there is a similar behavior between the SPI money red curve and the SPI time gray curve, with minimal variation in the last measurement periods. The lower left graph contains two scales, one for SB money and one for SB time. Okay, we can see that SB money red curve shows that there is a positive variation that is advancing the schedule translated into money. For its part, SB time gray curve shows that there is a positive variation, but as a function of the time variable, which means an advance in the schedule. The black graph shows the 50% of status date with the red line, as well as AC and EV and this date. Also, you can see the forecast indicators such as EAC, money, and time calculated based on the performance of a status date. And in this case, the project would conclude as planned and even with a lower budget than planned. Okay? Let's go to the next stage. Okay, now the next. On the schedule, performance measurement at 75%. Let's first look at the top left graph. The simulation carried out at 75 progress in the schedule shows that there is a very similar behavior between the SPI money red curve and the SPI time gray curve. Practically, these have had very close values in all measurement periods. The lower left graphic contains two scales, okay? And the SV money red curves, that there is a slight downward variation in relation to the previous measurement, but is still ahead of the schedule translated into money. For its part, SV time gray curve showed that there is a slight downward variation in relation to the previous measurement, but as a function of the time variable, but it still has an advance in the schedule. Okay, the black graphic showed the status date at 75% with the red line. In this case, the indicators such as EAC, money, and time calculated based on the performance of the status date. And in this case, the project would be concluded according to the plan and with practically the same budget. Okay, this is a scenario more comfort. Okay, now we will check on the schedule with performance measurement at 100% at conclusion of the project. Let's first look at the top left graphic. The simulation carried out at 100%, which is the conclusion of the project, showed that the indicators SPI money red curve and the SPI time gray curve have been joined so that at the conclusion, the SPI of both is 1. which is correct, since the project completed as planned. Practically, this is in this scenario, according to the schedule, the SPI indicator have been very similar with a small difference in the amplitude of the sine wave in some measurements periods. The lower left graphic contains two scales, one for SV money and one for SV time. We can see that both SVs have $0 and 0 month at the conclusions, which means that the project concluded as planned. As we can see, both the EVM and ESM indicators, SPI and SV, show equal results on the actual performance of the project. The black graphics shows the 100% status date with the red line, as well as AC and EV at the date, which correspond to the final budget at the final completion period of the project. In this case, the project concluded according to the plan and with practically the same budget. Okay, so we have concluded the second scenario on a schedule with their 4 stages. Now, we are going to analyze what's happening with the late finish scenario. This is the third scenario, okay? This graphic shows that the project ended 4 periods ladder planning. In this example, the red vertical line shows the period in which the project ended. This type of project is the most common in Bolivia and Latin countries. How will it be in case of your countries? Likewise, the blue curve represents the baseline cost, BAC. The orange curve is the total accumulated cost, AC, which is at the end, the EAC money. The gray curve represents the accumulated earned value at completion date, which is nothing other than the total work completed. As can be seen, AC is greater than BAC. It means that the project concluded with an excess cost and also in a longer time than planned, 24 instead of 20 months. Okay, now let's see the behavior of the SPI in the 4 stages reviewed earlier. Okay, this is the first stage. Late finish performance measurement at 24%. Okay, look at, please, the top left graphic. The simulation carried out at 25% progress in the schedule shows that there is a similar behavior between the SPI money, red curve, and the SPI time, gray curve, with significant variation in certain measurements periods. The lower left graphic contains 2 scales, one for SB money and one for SB months. We can see that the SB money red curve shows that there is a negative variation that is delay in a schedule translated into money. For its part, SB time gray curve shows that there is a negative variation, but as a function of the time variable, which means a delay in the schedule. The black graph shows the status date at 25% with the red line, as well as AC and EV at this date. Also, you can see the forecast indicators like EAC money and EAC time calculated based on the performance of the status date. In this case, the EAC time indicates that the project could be completed 4 months late and with a very significant cost overrun. Okay, we run all these calculations in the PMC model. All simulations will be made in the PMC model. Okay, let's go to the next stage. Next stage, late finish performance measurement at 50%. You can see the top left graphic. What's happening with this? Simulations carried out at 50% progress in the schedule show that there is a similar behavior between the SPI money red curve and SPI time gray curve, with significantly different variation from period 6 to period 10. It seems that they are going separating more, okay? We see that the SPI money has lower values than the SPI time. The lower left graphic contains two scales, you know, okay? When SB money red curve show that there is a significant negative variation, that is the line schedule translated into mode in money. For its part, SB time gray curve shows that there is a negative variation, but as a function of the time variable, which means a schedule delay of almost 222 months. Okay, it's more objective, the SB time. The black graphics shows the 50% date with the red line, as well as AC and EV similar. Also, you can see the forecast indicators such as EAC money and EAC time calculated based on the performance of the status date. And in this case, the project would conclude 6 periods later than planned, and with almost 85% cost overrun. Okay, this point said the forecast indicators in function of the actual performance of the project. Okay. We clearly see that the forecast indicators, EAC money and EAC time, vary on each status date, depending on the performance obtained in each measurement. This is very clear point for all of us. Okay, let's go now for next stage, late finish with performance measurement at 75%. You can see the top left graphic, please. The simulation carried out at 75%, advancing the schedule shows that there is a similar behavior between the SPI money red curve and SPI time gray curve. But in the period 10, the difference is substantial, and strangely in period 15, both indications have very little difference. Okay, this is point. Please, you can see this is very inflection point in the analysis of the SPI. Okay, the lower left graphic contains two scales, you know, and the SB money red curve shows that there is a strong downward variation in relation to the previous measurement. Okay, from the 10 to the 15 periods, the downward variation is substantial. Okay, remaining behind in the scale, translating to money. For its part, SB time gray curve shows that there is a substantial negative variation in relation to the previous measurement, but as a function of the time variable. It also has a schedule delay of approximately 2.5 months. Okay. The black graphics show the status date at 75% with the red line. as well as AC and EV indicators. Also, you can see the forecast indicators such as EAC money and EAC time, calculated based on the performance of the status date. And in this case, the project would conclude with 4 periods of delay and with cost overruns of almost 40%. Okay, it said the forecast indicators for 70% stage. Okay, now let's go to the last stage in the last scenario that we are analyzing. Light finish performance measurement at 100%. This is very critical, these graphics. Let's first look at, please, the top left graphic. The simulation carried out at 100%, which is the conclusion of the project, shows that the indicators SPI money, red curves, and SPI time, gray curve, have been separated substantially in such a way that at the conclusion, the SPI money is 1 and the SPI time is 0.83. This last value is correct, since the relationship of the planned period 20 and the completion period 24 indicates that the project concluded with a 17% delay in relation to what was planned. Okay, it is important to mention how the SPI indicator money begins to improve from period 16 to ending in period 24 at a value of 1. Therefore, it is confirmed that the SPI money give us wrong information on the project schedule performance, mainly from the last third of duration. Okay, this is very important point to take into account. The lower left graphic contains 2 scales, SB money and one for SB time. We can see that the SB money red curve at conclusion shows a value of $0. $0 implies that there was no delay in schedule. Do you believe it? For its part, SB time, gray curve, shows that at conclusion, there has been a negative variation of 4 months from 20 to 24, which is correct. 4 months negative, okay? As we can see, both ESM indicators, SPI time and SB time, show more consistent results on the actual performance of the project. 17% delay to completion and equivalent to 4 months. Okay? The black graphics show the 100% date with the red line, as well as AC and EV indicators, which correspond to the final budget and the final completion period of the project. In this case, the project concluded with 4 periods of delay and with cost overruns of approximately 15%. Okay? With this, we will finish the 3 scenarios, with each scenario with their 4 stages for our analysis of the SPI indicators. Okay? Continue. Well, now we are going to review a little about advantage and disadvantage of each SPI indicator. So, which indicator do you see the most effective? SPI time, more precise, more realistic, best performance, greater objectivity in decision making, comparing with SPI money, confusing interpretation, equivocal perspective, distortion, and unrealistic. As we can see, the SPI time has more advantage than the SPI money. So, in my experience, I recommend that it be applied to the control of the project from the beginning of the execution to have a clear idea of the true performance of the project from the beginning, to implement, prevent, and or corrective actions. The SPI money can be used as a performance benchmark between planned work and the value of work executed in each measurement period. Okay? Okay. Well, now let's talk a little about the project in our countries and regions. For example, in my country, Bolivia, and in general in Latin America, projects frequently conclude with delays in schedule, 20 to 48%, and with cost overruns, 20 to 35%. The real situation supports much more the recommendation to apply EVM complemented with ESM to measure the integral performance of the project in a more realistic and objective way. Since, as it was shown in the scenario of late project completion, the effectiveness is more clearly evident for the SPI time and the distortion for the SPI money. Okay, let's go. What is the average completion of project in your country? What percentage has early finish? What percentage has completed according to the schedule? What percentage has late finish? You say me. Each region has a managerial characteristics and culture to develop projects, but experience shows that there are patterns of behavior over time. This is an important point to review, okay? Golden rule to increase the probability of success of your project. Yeah, it's a good question. Among other things, in order to increase the probability of project success, it is important to have an effective project control mechanism to determine preventive and or corrective action from early stage. If we see the graphic, we can apply in two parts. One, on the left side of the red line, you can see, please, the graphic. On the left side of the red line, we have everything that happened from behalf to the status date, which means that we can determine the current performance of the project through the indicators CPI, SPI, time and money, CV, SV, EV, ES. This situation gives to the project manager the opportunity, you can see the opportunity to apply corrective actions, okay? Also, on the right side of the red line, we can forecast the future status of the project in terms of schedule and budget through the EAC, time and money, TCPI, TSPI, EAT indicators. These give us the opportunity to apply preventive actions to the project to redirect the performance towards a desired value, okay? If we apply this EVM and ESM tools in a disciplined, orderly, and methodical manner during the execution of the project, We will always be attentive to possible risk events that may occur, and therefore we can resolve them in a timely manner, okay? This is my main recommendation for to apply the EVM and ESM techniques. What every project manager wants to see and now? Good question. When and how much will the project finish? This is a big question that all high management wants to know. When and how much will the project finish? As you know, this is a very important question that a top management wants to know at all times while the project is developing. In this sense, to answer this question, it is important to have the precise and effective tools to control the project in a comprehensive and timely manner. The project management and control model that I have developed more than 6 years ago fulfilled that function of helping to increase the probability of success of the project. Okay, it's very important to support to the top management in your company. From the EVM and ESM indicators, it is possible to generate a series of status graph. As you can see, this graph is very complete in the sense of showing the real behavior profile of the project. You can see it's very complete. It allows us to understand what's happened so far with the project and apply the pertinent actions to constantly improve the project performance. From EVM, ESM, many combinations of graphics can be made, as I will show you shortly. Okay? All right. From the EVM and ESM indicator, it is possible to generate a series of status graphics. For example, this graphic shows the accumulated variation of cost scheduled by period and distributed in 4 quadrants, where one of them is the most critical, red, another is the most favorable, green, and 2 are alert quadrants, yellow. This graphics works in 2 axes. One is the percentage of variation of a schedule, and the second is the percentage of cost variation. 10. On each status, the project's earning schedule and earned value are measured. And one way to represent them is through this graphic that shows us the relative position between cost and schedule that the project is having. For example, the project was always in the red quadrant, which is very critical. But of all the periods measured, it seemed that the period P9, this point, period P9, was the least worst of all. Sign, it is slightly closer to the yellow quadrant, okay? This is a nice tool to analyze the progressive behavior of the project. Here you can see a nice panel. A panel to have a global and effective control of the project. Here we can see a typical project control panel applying the earned value and earned schedule management indicators. This panel is like having the control panel of the ship. Since it shows the different levels of the information required to control the project. For example, data of the measurement period, planned for the measurement period, indicators for the measurement period, executed for the measurement period, project forecast. Each of these levels contains a series of indicators that also visually show the level of each one through the semaphore technique, red, yellow, and green colors. Okay, this is a typical panel that you can to see and help you and support to you for take a good decisions in the project. This is other nice graphics. Compare SPR time with SPI money during process development. Our model can graphics in all time by periods of measurement. What's happening with the behavior of the SPI time regarding to the SPI money and compare them in a single graphics. This comparison is made in each project performance measurement period. This is a good input to analyze how the SPI money is distorted as the project progresses. We can also observe it in the other graphic, the behavior of SB money and SB time in two scales. One of money, dollars, for example, and the other in time, months, in this case or this example. Okay, this is a nice graphics that let us compare in all or each period of measurement what's happening with the SPI money versus SPI time. Analysis of the status of the project in relation to what was planned. Here we have a panel that shows us a complete series of indicators, both EVA and ESA. The important thing about applying these powerful tools is that it allows us to measure project performance not only at the global level, but also at the level of the work package of the deliverables to be created. We can see the planned work that contains, for example, in the top slide, we have BAC, planned value as of status date, percentage of spend as of status date, percent to the complete as of status date. In the EVA, AC, percent spent, EV, percent completed, CB, CPI, percent CB, SPI money, CSI, cost schedule indicator. This is very nice indicator. In terms of the ESA, we have ES, SB time, SPI time, percent SV time. All these indicators give us the current status of project performance. We have the opportunity, listen please, we have the opportunity to apply corrective actions to improve performance later. Okay, this is very important point in the world of the project management. What's happening with the project forecast? This is a very important moment in the project control. These prognostic indicators will be decisive for decision making by the project manager. We can calculate EAC money, EAC time, VAC money, percent VAC money, VAC time, percent VAC time, TCPI, TSPI, index for estimation of completion date is very important. Each of these indicators will give us a clear idea on what the possible behavior of the project will be. From this, the project manager will apply preventive action to improve the project's performance in the next measurement period. Very, very important, very useful, these indicators and these tools, okay? Well, we are arriving to the final of this presentation. To conclude this presentation, we are going to write some important conclusions that we have seen fit to highlight on this topic. One, the ESM indicator, SPI time and SV time, show in a more objective way the performance status of the schedule in the project. The SPI money and SV money indicators always end at 1 and 0 respectively, regardless of whether the project was completed as planned or with a late finish. Okay? The scenario where the effectiveness of the ESM indicator is best evidenced is late completed, the most common case in most projects globally. For it is easier to understand the performance of the project schedule in terms of a time variable than a monetary variable. Important. The SPI money presents a substantial distortion before entering the last third of the project duration. In almost the first 2/3, the curve is also strangely deformed. Sixth, the project management model created and used to carry out the simulations effectively support the analysis of different ESM behavior scenarios throughout its indicators: SPI time, SV time, ES, ETC time, EAC time, VAC time, TSPI, IECD. And 7, the combined application of EVM and ESM is more effective to measure project performance. Okay, this is our conclusion of this topic. Okay. Well, I have already finished my presentation. I want to thank you for your keen attention and for the interest of knowing more about the great importance that EVM and ESM techniques have in project control. This is a very exciting topic that I really like, and I have been practicing it for many years in projects in different industries. Once again, I thank you for your attention, and I also thank those people who have questions to make or comments, can do so in writing in the chat so that I can read and respond in the most precise way. I can share my presentation in PDF format and send to Dr. Mahed for him to send you. Now, I give the floor to our moderator of the event, Dr. Mahed. Thank you of all.
Thank you very much, Oscar. It's it's exciting to have and to see this presentation with the simulation and looking for the schedule performance indicator from time perspective more than a money perspective. And now I would like to be requesting all the attendees for different things. The first thing is some people had been requested to receive the PDF. As Oscar mentioned, he will send it to me and I will send it to all of you. So it can be helpful to look again for the simulation and studies into perspective of schedule performance indicator from time perspective. And the second thing I would like to request all of you, if you have been coming and attend late, currently this is a time you can please write your name and email in the chat box, so we can be look for all the attendees, and then we can send the certificates for you. Now, into the third thing I would like to ask you, for sure, what Oscar presents for us is still something maybe triggers some of the questions. So I would like to ask you, if you have some questions, please drop it down now in the chat box. So that will be great that Oscar can reply as a questions once drop it into the chat box. So I have just a small question now. Oscar, for the model you create from 6 years now, is the model having also encoding all activities? So I add the activities, resources, duration, cost, in the model, or your model is integrated with other softwares like MS Project or with Excel?
Okay. My model is the first acceleration. My model is not a software. My model was developed in Excel application, good thinking with Power BI. So is for management to the integral project. You can see risk management, you can see WBS and work package, you can see communications, you can see stakeholder matrix. It's all project management. The important is my model is you can import, for example, a cost estimating for our databases. Okay, for example, or Primavera or other software, you can import estimating costs and you can to modulate the S curve and the earned value of the project. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Oscar. It's very clear. Now, what if some of the project managers is attending here? They want to be in touch with you regarding into how to integrate this Excel to their project. So you are open that we can be linked already the project managers attending here to you, so they can be communicate with you through email to how to maybe have a benefit of this model into execution of project in Saudi, in Dubai, in Lebanon, or in different countries. Okay, so if anyone who have any questions, I can see in the feedback, all people, they are enjoyed today the simulation and the presentation. We have someone from Peru also attending here. That is great. So, okay, we'll give maybe 2 minutes. Thank you very much, Yassine, for your attendance. Thanks, Musa. Thanks, Njir Shadi. Okay, so I think there is not a lot of questions, but what we will do is that with the model has been created with Oscar. Okay, great. We have also from Philippines. Amazing. That's great. Great, Joel, to have you with us today. So yeah, so we will be already connecting you to Oscar in order is to be maybe trying to be having a collaboration into how to be have this type of model and to be integrated into our schedule programs, into the MS project or in Excel or as into Primavera. We know all this type of platform is open platform, which is we can integrate a lot of the tools into this platform. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance today. And I hope that you have been enjoying the presentation and will be looking forward to see you again in 2 weeks into our already next webinar. It's about sustainability and water circular with engineer Patrick Hoffman. He will be presented for us. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy your evening, your morning. So it's as where you are fall down in the part of the world. I wish you a successful day ahead, and may already all your projects become more successful, more fruitful with all this kind of pandemic and all this impact we are going through. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you again. for your attention. And you can find me on social networks such as LinkedIn and Twitter, where I am very active with publications related to the project management, project control, claim, cost engineering, and others. Okay, receive your fraternal greetings from Bolivia, South America, and have an excellent closing of the day. Until next time, regards.
Regards. Thank you, Oscar.